What's up, everybody? I'm Katie,
And I'm Morgan.
and this is For Your Misinformation. We are two Midwestern feminists here to break down the political news that you need to know without the misinformation that you don't.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, friends. Thank you for joining this week. Heads up, I'm going to be alone, and I'm going to be talking about my reaction to the Derek Chauvin trial. If you don't need another white person's opinion on that, I get it. You can turn this off right now and, I don't know, go eat a piece of fruit, drink some water, take a nap. But I have been thinking about it quite a bit. I have many thoughts. So if you'd like to hear, I guess keep listening. So, it's a lot. I was shocked by how fast the jury finished deliberating. When it was over, I felt relief. I was very surprised. Of course, pleasantly surprised. It was very cathartic watching him be taken out of the room in handcuffs, to be denied bail. But then, literally minutes later, found out about Ma'Khia Bryant. So, that really just, I didn't know how to feel as soon as the Chauvin verdict was over, because it's like, well, policing in America is still just an absolute shit show. So, I am relieved that that's what happened, and at the same time, it doesn't matter. The goal is still exactly the same, since the systems that we have in place are pretty much exactly the same. And yeah, the Columbus Police Department shooting a 15-year-old girl, maybe 16-year-old girl, wielding a knife. It's tragic, and it's like a symptom of the way that police officers are trained, and I think the way that they view their job. You guys know I am in favor of defunding the police, but lately I've been thinking more about how to phrase that in a more positive way, instead of saying, it is defunding the police, but our goal is to shift money away from law enforcement budgets to community services so that policing becomes obsolete. That's what it is. And I think that sounds a little bit more positive than defund the police, although it does mean the same thing. Because the goal is to abolish it. The police are not what keep us safe, especially not communities of color. Healthy communities don't have the kind of petty crimes that gives law enforcement the excuse to over-police these communities. So abolition is still the goal. The way we get there is by defunding. There's just so much. It's just a lot to think about, and if I'm tired, I can't even imagine people who are more closely affected by this. I want to play. So mostly what I've been thinking about is the Ma'Khia Bryant murder in Columbus, Ohio. I want to play you a clip by Dave Grossman. He is a former Navy SEAL, and he teaches classes to law enforcement. And the way that he teaches it is just that it's just crazy the way that he teaches them that they are constantly in danger. It's just he's not living in reality. The majority of what police do is absolutely not deal with violent crimes. The violent crimes that they do deal with, they're not dealing with effectively. They're not really preventing a lot of crimes, and they're not really solving a lot of crimes that they are finding out about after the fact. So I want to play you the class that he teaches is called Bulletproof Warrior. And this one is actually, this particular clip is from a police training in Ohio. Give this a listen. See if this is the kind of mindset you want your law enforcement community to have.
Once you've made the decision to take a human life, you're a transformed creature. You're a predator. What does a predator do? They kill. Only a killer can hunt a killer. Are you emotionally, spiritually, psychologically prepared to snuff out a human life in defense of innocent lives? If you can't make that decision, you need to find another job. Whenever we survey cops about use of deadly force, they consistently tell us that number one concern is what? Begins with an L. Lawsuits, liability, lawyers, I'm going to get sued. Do you understand you can be sued for not shooting? Stand there and do nothing while people are murdered. What do they call that? Cowardice, malfeasance, dereliction of duty, deliberate indifference, blood on your hands. We might call it assisted suicide, because the one that dies next might be you, yes? There's only one way out. Know the law, know it well. Get every training opportunity you can. Don't be afraid of being sued. Everybody gets sued, just a chance for overtime. Be afraid of being successfully sued.
I don't know about you guys. That is not how I want law enforcement to think about their jobs. That man is booked to do police trainings 200 days a year. So it is no wonder that an officer would get out of their car and within just a couple seconds decide that a young black girl holding a knife is a threat to him and that he needs to shoot her 4 times. I mean, there have also been videos of the Columbus police harassing the bystanders, yelling "Blue Lives Matter" right after they murdered a black girl who did not have a gun. My friend Kelly is like 100 pounds and she works in schools, and she could have de-escalated that situation. So when we're talking about defunding the police, we're talking about moving services away from an armed person who has had training to be a killer. That's what people leaving that training come away with, that everybody is trying to hurt them and that they should be more worried about being successfully sued. In other countries, police don't kill citizens. It's just like almost unheard of. In the United States, they've killed more than 300 people this year alone. If you want like more statistics about that, you can go to mappingpoliceviolence.org. Let's dig into the Columbus Police Department more specifically. So these stats are from mappingpoliceviolence.org. Most of them were compiled by Rebecca Kavanaugh, who is a criminal defense and civil rights attorney and a legal analyst. Columbus Police Department is one of the most racist and brutal in the country. Since 2013, they've killed more children than any other police department in the country, except for the Chicago Police Department. 83% of those killed by the Columbus Police Department are black, even though only 28% of the city population is black. The Columbus Police Department kills at a higher rate than 78 out of the 100 largest U.S. city police departments. In 99% of the police brutality complaints made to the city, police officers' use of force is found to be justified. Only 6% of the officers make up more than 50% of all use of force incidents in the city. Their leadership is entirely white. They have faced many racial discrimination suits. They were sued 20 years ago for an excessive use of force, especially towards African American people and other civil rights legislation. And obviously, not much has changed. I watched some of the videos of the Columbus PD police brutality, and it's just a lot of like clear indifference for human life. The ones that were like particularly egregious were like handcuffed young Black women who were like shoved into their cells so hard that they fell and hit their head on the bench. Nobody came to check on them. I've seen similar ones in like hallways where if somebody might verbally disrespect a police officer, they use incredible force against, again, like women who are handcuffed. And there's plenty of other examples, but those were just the ones that really bothered me. They also, speaking of like moving money from police budgets to services that are proven to help communities. Again, police don't have to prove that what they're doing helps their communities. They have 6 helicopters. The Columbus Police Department has 6 helicopters. Why? Recently, one of them went on a joyride over mostly Black areas. Some people say that this is following the major highway systems. Well, major highway systems are built through Black and brown neighborhoods usually. Chicago is no different. But so one of their helicopters went on a joyride. No idea how much that would have cost. No idea what the point of that was. And on that joyride, they spelled CPD, Columbus Police Department CPD, in cursive, like in their flight pattern. It's like, what are they doing? It's so infuriating. And also, I don't know. I just don't know what it's going to take to make people understand what is it that keeps communities safe, and it's not police. And it's certainly not broken windows policing, which is what got George Floyd killed. For a potentially counterfeit $20 bill that he may or may not have even known, got him in an altercation where he lost his life. I don't know. There's just so much. There's so many evidence-based things that we could be doing to make communities safer and stronger, and policing is not a part of it. So I want to talk. Legislation, policy always moves slower than cultural issues. That's just how it is. So there is legislation introduced to reform the criminal justice system. So most of what I've been hearing about is the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. The legislation that the Movement for Black Lives supports is the Breathe Act. So the Breathe Act is the gold standard. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is the compromise. That's the compromise. Tim Scott from South Carolina. He is supposed to be he's the only Black Republican senator. He's supposed to be writing an alternative bill to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. So that is going to be even more watered down. It's going to be even more toothless. So when you hear people talking about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, just remember that that is already the compromise. The gold standard is the Breathe Act. That is what the communities that are most affected by police violence are asking for. And like we always talk about on this pod, people know what they need. You don't have to tell them. They're asking for it. I know I talked about how Illinois has passed last legislative session, they passed the criminal justice omnibus bill. Qualified immunity was taken out of that bill in order for it to pass, but now there is a separate bill introduced this legislative period that would implement qualified immunity. Honestly, it would have a little bit to do with what Dave Grossman was talking about. It would make it easier to sue people who violate your civil rights. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think there needs to be more accountability and transparency in policing. I think if you violate somebody's civil rights, they should be able to sue you. And qualified immunity makes that really hard. And there's a bill in Illinois that would get rid of qualified immunity and make it easier for you to sue, which again, like, not really justice. The Chauvin verdict was not really justice. It was accountability. Maybe some racist cops are going to look at that and think twice, which is good, but it's not a substitute for policy changes. And I'm excited to live in a state that understands that, but I want to live in a country that values Black lives. So, I don't know. I guess that's most of my thoughts on the Chauvin trial. Just it is just abundantly clear to me that our homework, our goals, especially I'm a white person, especially as white people, is to advocate for moving funding out of law enforcement and honestly military budgets, but out of law enforcement budgets, which are huge, 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 away from that and towards community services so that people don't need to commit the petty crimes that allow law enforcement to or justify going into their neighborhoods and just fucking with them. It's what they do so much of the time. And it doesn't matter that you have a friend who's a good police officer. He or she still works within a system that allows just like rampant brutality to exist. There were only 3 days this year where a police hasn't killed an American. This does not happen in other countries. So we are basically in a choose your own adventure book. In times of great societal upheaval, white people go nuts because we think, I mean, I know that this isn't true, but I know a lot of people white people do feel this way, that rights are like a pie and more for them means less for you. That's not how it works, but it seems like some people do think that way. So those white people are going to work very hard to get people like Orland Park's Mayor Keith Pekow and Marjorie Taylor Greene and even more radical white supremacists into primary elections. They're going to try and get them to win those primary elections. And thanks to gerrymandering, most districts aren't really competitive anymore. So whoever wins the primary is, if you're in a red district, is who wins. That's how Marjorie Taylor Greene won. There are so few swing districts now because things have been gerrymandered so hard. And S1, the For the People Act, would create bipartisan or maybe nonpartisan independent redistricting committees. So blue states like Illinois, Democrats couldn't gerrymander, and red states like Iowa, Republicans couldn't gerrymander. It's passed the House. It can only pass the Senate with 60 votes. I don't think there's 10 Republicans out there who think that making it easier for people to vote is a good idea. I don't know. We're in a choose your own adventure book, and some people don't understand that. Like Joe Manchin clearly doesn't understand. So basically, the well-meaning white people need to work harder to get the good, anti-racist, compassionate, scientifically literate people into office, because there is absolutely no guarantee that we end up in a more perfect union. Almost the entire Republican Party has decided that democracy is only legit if they win. That's a bad sign. It's a problem. So with this gridlock federally, most of this stuff is going to happen on the state level. So we're basically experimenting. I'm going to move on to actions because I think I've shared about all I need to share. about the Chauvin trial. Accountability is good. Prevention is much better. So we need to change policing in America. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, it is Environmental Advocacy Day in Illinois. So I will be meeting with my state representative, LaShawn Ford, who follows me on Twitter now. No big deal. We'll be talking about CEJA, which is the Clean Energy Jobs Act in Illinois. I think a lot of people think that like people who work in non-renewable energy, like coal or nuclear or whatever, think that they're going to lose their jobs. But these bills like CEJA and the Green New Deal and whatever, they have job guarantees built in just in renewable energy. So it's not like they're throwing people out to the wolves. Like they have continuation plans in place and training and all that stuff. So we'll be talking about CEJA as well as the lead pipe replacement act. I think we've talked about this before. Chicago has more miles of lead pipe than any other city in the United States. And then another law that would improve the permitting process in Illinois. So it would make it easier for health organizations to say no when polluters like General Iron, scrap metal polluters, try and move to the southwest side that is already plagued by environmental racism. It would give health authorities the more power to say like, nah, we're gonna deny that permit, thanks. So I'm excited about that. I will let you guys know how it goes. And then on the 28th, my local Moms Demand Action group is meeting. We got some positive news this week about gun reform in Illinois. So there's two bills that people have been talking about, the bio bill and the fro bill. I actually don't know what the fro bill is about. Can't remember off the top of my head what it's about. The bio bill is block illegal ownership. So it would close some loopholes to if you buy your guns at a gun show or if you get it privately, you're exempt from a background check. So it would just be closing some of those loopholes. Obviously, there's a long way to go in fixing all of these problems, but like you got to start somewhere. So that's exciting. And then for actions, I want to talk about Vote Forward still has campaigns. They're basically doing like different experiments to see what works and what will work in 2022. So I just wrote 10 letters to Pennsylvania voters. Oh, by the way, Pennsylvania voters, you have a primary coming up, I think on May 18th, something like that. And I think there's constitutional amendments on that ballot. So somebody from Pennsylvania, check that out and let me know what's up. So I wrote 10 letters to them, but there's 3 different letters, and Vote Forward is trying to see which one is more effective at increasing vote by mail. That's what this campaign is about. But they've done other campaigns that have to do with like vote tripling to see if I think asking people to ask 3 of their friends to vote increases turnout at all. So I don't know. I think it's always fun to see what the Vote Forward labs are doing. It's you just go to votefwd.org, I think, or just Google Vote Forward, and you can adopt as many voters as you want to. I think this Pennsylvania campaign ends April 30th, but my guess is that they're going to roll another one out after that. And then another event I thought you guys might be excited about. There's Drag Queen Bingo for Virginia coming up on Friday, May 7th. It is from 7 to 8 Central Time. I will put the link to it in our link tree and in the bio. But it is Sister District of Greater Chicago's first fundraiser of 2021. And it is It kicks off Mother's Day weekend, and it features two of Chicago's very own queens, Darby Lynn Cartwright and Alexis Bevels, who will host an hour of hilarity and friendly competition and raising critical early money for two Virginia House of Delegates candidates, who are Alex Askew and Chris Hurst. There's a suggested donation of $20.21. But if we've learned anything, it's that early money allows campaigns to like really get a good start, like put their best foot forward. So I'm excited to go to that, and I hope you guys will join me. I think that's about it. My self-care this week is that the kitten is 3.5 weeks old. I love watching it learn to walk and start to sort of develop a personality. Mostly its personality is just that it's extremely wobbly. I am going out for drinks tonight. I'm doing a social thing with fully vaccinated people, and I'm a little nervous about it, but I am proud of myself for getting out of my comfort zone. A little bit of a homebody, and I don't know, whatever. I like being at home. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you again on Monday. Bye. Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and a review.
It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FYMI Pod.
Shout out to Ben Schlofelt for the audio production, Hope Dye for the podcast art, Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, and Adam Roston, who edits these videos every week so you can watch them on YouTube.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.